Okay, you're live.
All right. Welcome to the Monday, March 10th, 2025 Board of Supervisors meeting. This meeting is now called to order. Ms. Whitten, will you please take roll?
Supervisor Lewis.
Present.
Supervisor Day.
Here.
Supervisor Lyons.
Here.
Supervisor McDaniel.
Here.
Chair Ayers.
Here. We will now offer an invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Those standing are not required to participate, but if you would like to join us, those attending, excuse me, but if you would like to join us, please stand.
We pray in peace that we may be granted the knowledge and understanding to do those things we ought, and to have the grace and to faithfully accomplish them for the benefit and welfare of the citizens of our county. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will hold citizens' comments near the beginning of the meeting. We will do our best to take citizen comment remotely. There are two options for citizens to offer comment: to join by telephone. You may dial into one of the numbers listed on the county website. Webinar ID and password are there for your convenience. Citizens wishing to simply view the meeting live or after the fact can do so on the Rockbridge County Board of Supervisors YouTube channel, also available on the county website. If you wish to make a citizen comment as a Zoom meeting participant, you will use raise the hand feature. You can press the raise hand button on the bottom of your Zoom window or press *9 if you are calling in by telephone. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No, ma'am.
All right, we will now welcome citizens' comments. When your name is called, please address the board at the podium, stating your first and last name and magisterial district. Please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes. There's a timer on the table for your convenience.
We have Ann Russick.
Good evening.
My name is Ann Russick. I'm from the Buffalo District. I'm here today to ask the Board of Supervisors to consider having a conversation that may lead to a decision to opt away from our current county fence-out ordinance and support a fence-in ordinance that a majority of counties in the Commonwealth are presently operating under, including Augusta and Rockingham counties. My husband and I purchased 30 acres of land 30 years ago on which we have continuously kept our horses. I became aware of the fence-out ordinance last year when a neighborhood farmer's cows broke out of his pasture, went across my adjoining neighbor's property and onto mine. I do not share a fence line with the owner of the cows. After several breakouts, I contacted the sheriff's office because the owner of the cows, even after phone contact, would take hours to come herd his animals back to his property. At that time, the sheriff's office told me about the fence-out ordinance, which essentially holds me responsible for not having a fence to keep his cows off my property. This ordinance also holds me liable for the welfare and safety of his cows while on my property. This past Thursday, March 6th, I came home at approximately 8:30 p.m. and discovered a herd of about 12 to 15 Angus cows within 30 feet of my house standing on my driveway. I contacted the sheriff's office, gave them the name of the owner, and waited for a deputy to arrive. While waiting, the cows wandered down the driveway to the back of my barn, found our 50-foot 4-bay hay shed building. They proceeded to enter the shed and start eating our hay. My dog was able to chase them out of the shed, at which point they trampled over a bush hog that was outside the building. When the deputy arrived, the cows were standing on a concrete patio area. Cows wandered to another area where they lay down. The deputy told me that the owner had been contacted, but had told the sheriff's department that he was not going to come get the cows, but would take care of it in the morning. This is directly because this fellow knows that the fence-out ordinance allows him to do that. Because of the fence-out ordinance, there is no time frame that obligates an owner to retrieve his animals. There was nothing the deputy could do. He was extremely polite, I want to make note of. The cows remained on my property for over 12 hours, and being unable to secure my open hay shed, the cows returned back to the hay shed during the night and early morning hours. Cows left my property of their own accord and headed back to the fence line they had broke through. On Saturday morning, I hired a man to put up a regulation livestock fencing along my property line. My whole property already has exterior fencing except for 300 feet, which we chose to not fence in because my grandson is good friends with the neighborhood son, and they often go through there on the gators. They've ridden their ponies through that area and their dirt bikes. But I did paid to have it fenced in with livestock fencing. Monday morning today, the cows broke through my newly installed fencing. Called the sheriff's office to report once again, but not wanting the cows to get back into my hay barn, which is where they were headed. My daughter and I drove the cows back through the now broken fence onto my neighbor's property. According to the fence out ordinance, the owner of the cows is under no time restrictions to move his cows off my property. The cow owner owes me no restitution for my lost hay. And had one or more of his cows hurt themselves while on my property, I would have been liable to pay for said cows. I installed a fence to keep the cows out, but now I still have no recourse to get the owner of the cows to come retrieve his animals in a timely manner as they continue to get out. And I'm pretty sure that's 3 minutes because I timed it at home. But if you had any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, Ms. Russick, thank you so much. You've given us a lot to think about.
That is all who has signed up.
All right, is there anybody online?
No one with their hand raised.
All right. Anybody there? All right, we will move on to the approval of the minutes. We'll start with the Thursday, January 30th, 2025 interjurisdictional meeting. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Abstain.
And I vote yes. The Monday, February 24th work session and regular meeting, is there a motion to approve those?
So move.
Okay, Mr. McDaniel.
Second.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
And I vote yes. County financial report and appropriation resolution, Mr. Harrison.
Yes, there's no actions needed for the school division this meeting. For the county, we have a resolution authorizing the additional appropriations and the payment of bills. The total amount of bills this period is $924,763.42. Additional appropriations include $500 from the Circuit Court Clerk Technology Trust Fund and $101,716 for tax refunds from recent pending court settlements. I'm with you is the revenue and expense reports through February. Total revenues amounted to $43,482,217. Expenditures, $43,632,373. So a difference of negative $150,156. 67% of the fiscal year has passed. Sales tax collected to date is $2,992,135, or 67% of the estimated budget. Meals tax is at $2,171,609, or 65% of the estimated budget. And lodging tax is at $1,011,776, or 55% of the estimated budget. And that is all I have for right now.
Thank you. Any questions?
Make a motion to approve the resolution.
Mr. McDaniel, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
And I vote yes. Okay, move on to the budget update. Mr. Harrison?
Yes, I'm going to share my screen. Thank you. Before you is the first draft of the FY 2026 budget. I want to thank the Finance Committee and Mr. Suter for all their uh, multiple meetings we've had so far and some more to come, including this week, on reducing the budget gap that we started this process out with. I also want to thank the constitutional officers and department heads. They've been really good to work with. And I also want to thank my staff for the multiple side projects I have them working on to get this budget together. The current budget gap is minus $899,303. Total revenues amount to $63,707,213. Of that, $4,575,200 is the use of reserves for capital projects and restricted reserves from the EMS recovery fees. Total expenses amount to $64,606,516, which is $134,792 higher than FY 25. And this amount includes $3,862,697 for capital projects. The draft of the budget, has current property taxes at level for right now. The personal property tax remains unchanged at $425 for vehicles and $425 for other personal property, mainly business personal property. $255 for machinery and tools. The personal property tax revenue is up $1,198,110 due to increased valuations and, more importantly, more accurate estimating. The PPTRA rate is 30%. The real property tax rate remains unchanged at 61 cents. Revenue is up $278,586 due to increased valuations. 1 cent on the real personal property tax rate is estimated to generate $326,571. 1 cent on the personal property would generate $26,245. 1 cent on mobile homes, $717, and 1 cent on machinery tools is $2,048. We estimate a 97% collection rate. Sales and meals taxes are flat. Lodging taxes are estimated to be lower based on current year trends. Both in the budget and in a copy before you is the summary of expenditures, where you can see the different which elements, which departments have large increases. If we look over just the ones that have over 100,000, IT, as you're aware, with the going to the Tyler software, municipal software system, that has already started to go in effect. We actually have a big meeting all day on Wednesday with Tyler.
Mr. Harrison, in regards to that Tyler system, I remember when we talked about it and voted on it, there was going to be a savings both on the school side and on the county side. Roughly, I think it was about 125,000 total. Is
Yes.
that accounted for in the budget as a savings?
Not this year, because we'll have an overlap in systems for the
27.
For this year and next year. We'll have an overlap in systems as we transition. There will be a period where we're operating on both on the finance side. But yes, once we're fully on Tyler and the school's fully on Tyler, both entities will save. That's correct. Not this year. Others that are higher, fire and rescue is notably higher. due to a host of factors. In this is a 10% raise for fire and rescue staff. And on top of that, the 3% raise that is provided to all employees. And there's some other things also involved with the fire and rescue budget. And that's more easily pointed out looking at the budget itself. Consolidated dispatch, there's some raises there. Dispatch officers themselves are going to get a higher raise from the state, but also there's some capital needs that they have, and those will be is proposed those capital needs be paid for from reserves.
I can jump in on that real quick, Ashton. There's a couple of, first of all, the 911 center had also asked for staff had asked for a position, and the 911 board did not recommend approval for that. And we're also looking at some alternative plans for the part of the capital is for microwave upgrades. I've been working with the director, and as we expand fiber, we're trying to get to some of the towers, which would the plan would be to render some of the microwave links obsolete, so that we don't have to keep up with the upgrades on those. So there would be a cost, obviously a monthly cost for fiber for the backhaul for communication, but it would be much less than what we're paying for microwave right now. And that'll continue to develop as we move forward with getting fiber rolled out. Right now, it's still there, but it's on the capital side.
For the libraries, when part of is their request, and also funding their capital requests they've made other jurisdictions to remodel the restrooms at the Lexington branch of the library system, and also a new catalog system software. Those two one-time capital costs are proposed to be taken from reserves, along with other capital and one-time costs. The economic development, the two main cost drivers there is per our contracted formula to the tourism program, as meals tax especially, lodging tax definitely not so, driving up our contribution to that program, and also budgeting the economic performance grant matches. Revenue sharing with the city of Lexington is up $202,425, and that's just based on our FY24 audited numbers and increases. Another large increase, of course, as you're aware, is the $239,000 for our contribution to the new debt service of the new social services building. And I'll go over the capital projects shortly. So our overall capital expenses amounts to $3,862,697. We have $3,037,145 for the provisional CIP projects. And since that was last presented to the full board, there was a couple of things were added. One of them, we can go through those. For example, we have $40,000 to expand the parking lot at the fleet services. $34,282 for the library projects previously mentioned, $560,000 for 4 school buses, and $231,270 for central dispatch, as Mr. Suter had mentioned. The current drafted budget has a 3% raise for all employees, an additional 10% raise for fire and rescue personnel. Good news, health insurance at this time is estimated to remain unchanged. We had a meeting with One Digital, so that's positive news. This next part is a little bit complicated, and I just want to just go over it. With the school funds, as you recall last
Ashton,
year.
you might want to zoom just a little bit on
On
that.
that one. Yeah. As you recall with this FY 2025 budget, we were, due to delays in the state adopting their budget, the county went ahead and adopted the budget based on the school division's needs, with the understanding that if the state did come through with additional state funding, the amount of local funds would be reduced dollar for dollar. And that estimate was $524,517. So essentially, their new base budget, base being the starting point of FY 25 for FY 26 was $16,778,169. Their latest estimate of local needs is $506,539, and that's based on a 3% raise for all employees. So the contribution at this point in time is $17,284,708, which is slightly less than the FY 25 budget. But again, as you know, we have a joint meeting with the school board scheduled for March 20th, and hopefully they'll have more firm estimates and discussions to have around their needs and their anticipated revenues. Not included in this budget it is the state may mandate a 1.5% bonus for all constitutional employees July 1. Per practice, the county matches all raises and bonuses for county funded positions in those constitutional offices. So that, for example, a sheriff's deputy would get the same rate bonus or raise as those funded by the state because they're doing the same job. We just received the compensation board numbers on Friday. So Julie in my office is going through that now. And so we'll be able to update those the estimated revenues by the next draft of the budget more accurately. She also met with the sheriff today to go over, make sure we're right on track with the number of deputies and what they're going to get paid. Those are the big items we have. When you look at the budget, which you have a full copy of available from the SharePoint and is also posted online. So I'm going to bring up the general fund. Okay. The first page, a couple of pages of your budget is a summary. So you see all the revenue and expenses by department. The next page shows the current budget gap. Then we also have this page that just shows the summary of expenses. I highlighted throughout the budget the FY 26 column in this bluish color. And then you have, of course, local revenue, state revenue, federal, and then all the individual departments. So you see the difference and the percent change. Even though it looked like the total, just a question on even though the total expenses is only going up $134,792. If there's a question on why we still have a gap, if you remove all the capital and the reserves, our operating costs are $2,091,122 up over FY 25. And with that said, go glad to have any questions in the finance committee.
I mean, if you take out of the budget, the capital, what we're paying capital, our reserve for 2 million.
Yes. But we started out with a much larger gap, as you know. So again, the finance committee and Mr. Suter have had several meetings now on getting that down to a much more manageable level. And they'll meet again this Thursday.
Thank you all for your very hard work on that. Is there any questions?
I think the finance committee would ask the other board members to go through the budget. And hopefully find either revenues to increase or expenses to decrease and let us know.
Okay.
We have a meeting on Thursday, so. We're closer than we were, but we're not at zero yet.
And I also want to mention that again, if you want a printed copy, just let me know. I'll be glad to get a printed copy to you, but it is, of course, available to the public and yourself. That's also available on SharePoint. If there's any other additional data that you can see, anything like we've been working on anymore down in the weeds, be glad, just email me or give me a call. I'm glad to provide that or call me.
Will do.
I will note that this is either my 12th or 13th budget with Rockbridge County, and every year when we do the initial look at the revenues and requested expenditures, it's always a little bit of a shock. And we've always got a gap that we've got to close. This year, it was the most significant one that I've been a part of and dealt with. And so I do want to express my appreciation to Mr. Harrison and the Finance Committee, and also to all the constitutional officers, department heads, outside agencies, et cetera, that worked with us on this. And of course, the full board for your support.
All right, gentlemen. Is there anything else on that? If not, we will move on to EDA. We have Boyd Brown, 4/10/2025, and Stacy Stevens as well.
Madam Chair, I would say that I work with the EDA board as the liaison for our board, and I think both Mr. Brown and Mr. Stevens bring a valuable experience, knowledge, and resource to the EDA, and I would recommend that we reappoint both of them to that board.
Is there a second? All right, Mr. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Day. Yes. Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
And I vote yes.
Just to be clear, we can do them both at one time. I don't want that to get
Yes.
hung up somehow. Okay, perfect. I appreciate the efficiency. Just want to make sure.
Does anybody have any questions on the monthly staff reports? If not. Is there a motion?
I move to accept, please.
Mr. Lewis? Mr. Lewis, Mr. McDaniel?
Yeah.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
And I vote yes. We do have a Board of Supervisors. We'll have a joint meeting with the school board on Thursday, March 20th at 5:30 at the Rockbridge Innovation Center. This meeting is part of the budget schedule. And are there any other board comments? I would like to make one on our speaker, Ms. Russick. I would like to take a minute on Ms. Russick's comment about our fence out policy and ask that we do a little bit of look on what Augusta and Rockingham County are doing. And certainly, is there anything that we can encourage our landowner, our animal owners, our farmers to collect their animals in a more timely manner? So there might be something we can do in this.
I can say what Rockingham and Augusta County do. What they've done is they've adopted, as under statute, your right to adopt. You can adopted an ordinance stating the property lines constitute a fence, which basically means that if someone crosses a property line to someone else's property, they've crossed the lawful fence, and therefore the owner of the animal was liable. If you do have, under our current situation, since she did put a fence in, I guess, a day or two ago, when they crossed over the fence this morning, she could have impounded the animal. She didn't have to give the animals back. Because once they've crossed the lawful fence, you can impound the animal until the damages are paid. And in this case, the damage would be the cost of her fence. So there are some tools that are available, but it does put the onus on the person who his property is being trespassed. And then they can, and once the animal's impounded, then they have to go to the court and they can get a lien on the animal if damages aren't paid. So there are methods. It's just not simple. So the only option that we have under state code to directly address this would be to change from a fence out county to a fence in, and that would be adopting the ordinance saying the property lines are a fence line. And so I think Augusta did that, I don't know, 5-10 years ago or something. I don't know how long ago Rockingham County did.
I think if the owner of the livestock was notified that they were out and stated that he or she was not coming after until the next day, then knowing that they were out and not doing anything about it, I think she could, or he could be charged about allowing his livestock to roam at large.
Well, not under fencing rules. So because the fencing law is pretty clear that it's her obligation to fence out the animals. So animals can roam anywhere where they're not fenced out. And the section of the code which talks about damages and the ability to collect damages actually says if you have a lawful fence and they come onto your property, then you can collect damages. That's the language. So it's a little bit it is not when you're fence in, when you have a fence in statutes like we have now, fence out, fence in. I'm confusing myself. But the way that we currently have it now is that it is set up in such a way that if you do not have a lawful fence on your property and an animal comes on, a farm animal comes on your property, you have very little rights other than pushing it off your property. Now, if the fence is in place, then you have these other rights. Then you can claim for damages. You can do things. If you don't have it there and the cow comes on and eats her hay, you don't have legal rights under the statute. There might be some tort that another lawyer might be aware of, but I wouldn't be aware of that because there are potential claims if somebody unjust enrichment by they're eating your food instead of the animal's food. There might be other things, but those wouldn't be things that we'd be dealing with. Those would just be civil claims between parties. And I don't even know if that would work. You'd have to ask a lawyer that does that work. But
Okay. Well, I think a good place to start is to look at what Augusta.
yeah, and I can
Certainly probably have more counts than we do, so.
yeah, no, they do. And both Augusta and Rockingham County are fenced in, so they do require that. And so, yeah, if needed, if any of you wants me to provide more
Well,
a memo or something, I'm happy to do that.
Talk, you know,
Well, I actually chatted with her today.
oh, you have,
Yeah, we did talk
okay,
today.
so she
So.
has that information.
But if you do want a memo on that, I'm happy to provide a memo on what it says and
All right.
compare others.
Thank you.
I mean, if we're gonna get information on that. I mean, unless you're just planning on getting the information, and not doing anything with it. I mean, I would think you'd want to check with our local farm bureau and get their opinion on it. I mean, they're the farmers.
And the Farm Bureau actually has some good information on that. They track that throughout the Commonwealth, and I think they would be a very good source of information.
All right. You,
I'm happy to
would-
reach out to Max
that-
Smith
that
and
would be
ask him
great.
about it. Yeah, if you'd like me to.
thank you for that. Anything else? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Yeah, and I vote yes.